Okay, so I've been asking this question for a few days. Will there be a sign in the weather on Thursday 27th of April 2017, which was yesterday and it was my 41st birthday, to do with Jayton's prophecy for Sunday 30th of April and Monday 1st of May 2017? Well, I have to give credit to a couple of boys who have been inspiring and guiding me in making this prophecy. It's not my prophecy, it's theirs. Jake Wetterling is from Minnesota, and Jake's life on Earth ended in 1989, and this boy is Nathan Breeze, and Nathan's from Victoria in Australia. 13-year-old boy. Nathan lost his life in the Black Saturday bushfires in 2009. Jake died 10 years earlier in 1989 after being abducted by a sexual predator. Now, I actually think, and this is pretty important because most sexual predators are secretive, closeted, sneaky types of people. I actually think both these boys were gay. I think they were both naturally same-sex attracted. They didn't really live long enough to experience or enjoy their sexuality. But I strongly feel that they are connected, as in they are soulmates. And they never met in this life, obviously. They never met on Earth. But on a soul level, I think there's a very real connection between them. And this is actually their prophecy, what I just read. The dates Sunday 30th of April and Monday 1st of May. It's their prophecy. Those dates are 16 and 17 days after Good Friday. And that is the age of Jayton, who is a fantasy character from Jake's imagination, as well as Nathan's, as well as mine. So, start off by asking the question, did anything happen on my birthday? Since my birthday's come and gone, shouldn't be too hard to answer that. And the answer actually is yes. A few things happened on my birthday. One of which was exactly what I had said might happen, and this was not. This was given a very low chance of happening in the official forecast, but a cyclone did form off northern Australia, and if I just click on tropical cyclone, there it is. Tropical Cyclone Francis, currently a Category 2 system, and if I bring it up, you can see there, it formed late on April 27, which was my birthday, and it's currently a Category 2, and by late today, it's forecast to be, or by late tomorrow, so it's already become a Category 2, and by late tomorrow, it's expected to be a Category 3. So today being Friday the 28th of April 2017, tomorrow is Saturday, April the 29th, and so it's actually going to be a Category 3 cyclone, which is a pretty decent system, although it's quite small in size. But it's interesting because had I been a girl, my mum was going to call me Francis. And I did mention going back to Anzac Day, the 25th, and I think even in my video the night before that, I mentioned that I thought that this tropical low might become a cyclone. At the time, that was not being seriously considered in the forecasts, but I just had a feeling if something's going to happen on my birthday to act as a sign of what's to come a few days later, then I thought, yeah, I reckon we might have a cyclone. And we do. So this is advice number 7, and this is also the 7th cyclone this year in Australian waters. And 7 is the value of the word bad, B-A-D. If you just add up the letters according to their place in the alphabet, B-A-D equals 7. So what bad thing is going to happen on the 30th of April and the 1st of May? Well, it may not just be those dates. I think it looks like there's going to be quite a bit of stuff happening also on the 29th. And, I mean, it's only just the 28th. It's only just becoming Friday the 28th in America now. But I think there's going to be, there is forecast to be quite a bit of stuff happening on Friday and Saturday, as well as Sunday and Monday. So we'll just take a bit of a look at that. This is the American Weather Channel, and this article is from the 27th of April. It's a pretty recent article, just a few hours old, and the heading is potent system will increase risk of severe storms, including flooding and tornadoes this weekend in South Plains and Midwest. And I won't read it all, it's quite a bit here, but that's the current warnings as of 10 PM on the 27th. And earlier today there were tornado warnings for this area. What I will mention, because tornadoes were not forecast on Thursday, and yet severe storms hit parts of southern Alabama and Georgia on Thursday. There were multiple reports of damage from a possible tornado in Pike County, Alabama, late Thursday morning, including downed power lines and trees downed onto homes. Early Thursday afternoon, another possible tornado was reported just north of Junction City in Talbot County, Georgia, where structural damage was left behind and one woman was treated for minor injuries after getting trapped in a home near Baldwinville, Georgia. So here's a photo showing the damage to a building and some trees, and that's at Junction City in Georgia. So you can see the damage to that building there, and this is a suspected tornado that caused this damage. Like I said, tornadoes were not particularly predicted on Thursday. So 2 people were injured by a possible tornado in Clayton, Alabama, Thursday evening. This apparent tornado caused damage to a home, and 2 tornadoes likely touched down in western Kansas on Thursday, near Kendall and Colorado. These tornadoes, if confirmed, occurred in extremely dry air with dew points in the low 40s. So unusual conditions to see tornadoes. So after this event, right behind the midweek disturbance, another robust weather system will fire off more severe weather in the southern plains late up Friday, which will then shift further east this weekend. So then it breaks down the forecast for the coming days and goes through all the areas and what's likely to happen. But basically, just looking at the maps, here you have Friday the 28th, and that map shows the area that's under warning for thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms. Then we have Saturday the 29th of April 2017, where the warning area starts to take on a shape a bit like a raindrop, and it stretches all the way from St. Louis in the north, Louisville up in the northeast, down to Houston in the south. Sunday, 30th of April 2017. One of the dates that I've actually been flagging on behalf of Jacob and Nathan. And here we go. New Orleans is included this time, all the way up to Indianapolis, and again St. Louis. Now St. Louis is actually a city that gets a mention in The Dark Tower, which is a story by Stephen King. And 11-year-old Jake Chambers in that story has to catch a train called Blaine. And Jake says Blaine is a pain. And Blaine is a pain. Blaine is actually an artificial intelligence controlled train. Very intelligent, but also insane and psychopathic. So I've used, I've drawn a lot of analogies from The Dark Tower to do with severe weather concepts. Blaine being an analogy for tornadoes. The Dark Tower. So there's a big potential for flash flood, dangerous flooding, and flash flooding and river flooding from this event. And this map shows the potential there for that. Again, you have St. Louis, smack bang in the area that's forecast to get, as you can see here, 5 to 8 inches is the orange colour, and that's 5 to 8 inches widespread. So torrential rain is forecast over a pretty big area there, and we're talking about an area that's already had a lot of rain. So the potential for really dangerous flooding is very real. This image here shows a gustnado, which is not a tornado, it's actually a ground-based phenomenon associated with thunderstorms. And this one was captured on my birthday, 27th of April, in Truman County. So, a gustnado, a bit like a whirlwind, associated with a thunderstorm. And the day before, large hail, or this was actually during the night, Dallas saw some really big hail. But these photos are actually from Cedar Hill in Texas. And you can see there golf ball sized hail and larger. So I will play the video that goes with this story, which just sums it all up basically.
A couple of confirmed tornadoes on Thursday, and we knew there was going to be severe weather. Didn't quite expect it to be such an active tornado day, but a total of 6 reports. I think 4 of those reports are going to end up being just one long track tornado, so we'll probably end up being 3 tornadoes. Weather Service will definitely have some work to do on Friday, but seeing some pictures and video from Alabama there, some of the damage, some of the views of the tornado as well, just to give you an idea of where some of these tornado reports were. And by the way, we did have several reports of some wind damage and even a little bit of hail with these storms. So look at that, 4 reports right there, probably from the same cell. So we'll keep you updated on how that pans out. But I want to go to the more important thing at this point, which is the forecast over the next couple of days. Way more severe weather on the way. Not only severe weather, but flooding, too. And I want to highlight one area for flooding. You really got to be careful here this weekend, guys. I'm telling you, if you live in northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, eastern Oklahoma, you guys got a ton of rain over the last week, and there's so much rain that's going to fall in these areas over the weekend. Just don't drive in flooded roadways. You've also got a lot of hail and wind and even a few tornadoes possible in that entire red area. And I think a lot of these storms will wait until at least pretty close to sundown, if not after sundown on Friday, so a lot of the day will stay dry. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security. Saturday, it's a slow-moving storm system, more heavy rain for those spots, more of this severe weather. Tornadoes will be possible each day. There's so much to talk about. Just make sure to stay tuned, and we'll get you updated each day.
Okay, so potential for flooding, as well as some potential for tornadoes. And given that Jake his surname is Wetterling. Wetterling? It's German. It's a German surname, and it actually means, if you translate it to English, it It actually translates as weather child. Weta is weather. Ling is little one. So, like duckling, it has the same meaning. And so wetterling means weather child. So breeze, wetterling. Two weather-related names. Nathan actually died in a bushfire. And Jacob wasn't a weather-related thing that took him. It was actually a human being who took Jake and murdered him. But I think the feeling of being abducted, the feeling of being caught in a natural disaster is much the same. It's just trauma. It's fear, and it's trauma. So both these boys died in a way, in a similar kind of fashion. And that's not why I think they're linked, though. The connection, the bond they have, has to do with who they were and who they are. And it's interesting because in The Dark Tower, Jake Chambers, the 11-year-old boy, he does die in that story, but he's not dead. And that's precisely the case with Jake and Nathan. Because I can feel the life of these boys. And I guess that's my spirituality. It's I'm not a Christian. I'm not religious. But that's because too many Christians, for me, they don't seem to appreciate honesty enough. And they don't value honesty. Like for me, being open about the fact that I'm gay and about my sexuality, it just isn't appreciated by religious people. And so I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. And I guess a lot of religious people, if you're gay, they would say, oh, well, you must be possessed by Satan. I've certainly got that impression, that that's how they think. They don't seem to acknowledge any kind of spiritual gifts in someone who's openly gay, which is interesting and a bit sad. So this article here is more focused on the flood threat that's coming up. Wetterling, weather child, wet, rain, flooding. This one's also from April 27, which is my birthday. Dangerous flash flood threat looms this weekend in Ozarks, Mississippi Valley. So I guess it's talking about the same time frame. This one's showing current flood warnings and alerts for the area that's going to be under threat. As I've already mentioned, it includes St. Louis. Photo there of some flooding. This is from Fayetteville. It's actually a video, but I'm not going to play it. This shows departure from average rainfall. So over a 7-day period, the last 7 days obviously, up until April 26, this shows the departure from average rainfall compared to normal. And you can certainly see there why they've got major flooding happening in the Carolinas. But also this central area out here has seen a lot of rain. And if you look at the code, purple is showing at least a 4-inch departure from average rainfall. See, that's departure from average, that's not total rain. So yeah, that center belt there across the US is really, really wet as it is, and more rain is really going to cause problems. So as it says here, I will read this bit. Heading into the weekend, The ingredients are lining up for a serious flash flood threat. The slow-moving nature of these ingredients is key. A sharp, expansive southern plunge in the jet stream will be slow to lumber out of the western US. Ahead of that, a deep plume of moisture will be pumped northward from the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Thanks to the slow-moving jet stream plunge, a waffling frontal system, it's a bit like me, will be slow-moving as well from the Ohio Valley to Texas, providing additional lift for rain and thunderstorms. So there's more than one threat associated with this system, and there is a definite threat for major dangerous flooding. And there's the timeline there, just describing the areas when the threat's, going to affect different areas, if that makes sense. So while any stalling thunderstorm clusters can quickly produce 3 inches or more of rain in just an hour or two, the greatest potential for heavy rain through early Monday, keeping in mind that the date I've been flagging all along is Sunday the 30th of April and Monday the 1st of May, is from the Arklatex region, wherever that is, northward up the Mississippi River Valley, including parts of the lower Ohio Valley. The cold front and jet stream plunge are expected to finally speed up by Sunday. Bit like Blaine. But how fast and exactly when that occurs weighs heavily on the heavy rain potential further east in the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley, and is still uncertain at this time. So the sooner it speeds up, the better from the point of view of flooding. By the time the front reaches the east on Monday, it should move fast enough to basically saying it shouldn't cause any major problems for Virginia and North Carolina, which are already flood ravaged, and any more rain there would certainly be catastrophic. Any more major rain. And again, we're back to our map showing the rainfall where it's likely to be. We've already looked at that. Like it says here, don't underestimate the danger. Nathan and Jake don't make predictions for no reason. Flash flooding could become serious and widespread as soon as late Friday night, particularly over the Ozarks, where mountainous terrain will only enhance runoff and where the ground is already saturated. Flash flooding may not capture your attention like severe thunderstorms and tornadoes, but it can be just as dangerous. In June 2010, 20 campers were killed during an overnight flash flood in the Albert Pike Recreation Area of Montgomery County, Arkansas. And that is an image from that event. 20 people dead. You can see why. Floodwaters have just overrun everything, including the buildings. And that goes back to 2010. Obviously, you should not drive through floodwaters, and it's just got some advice there on, basic common sense, really. And then there's some photos down the bottom. If you want to look at some weather photos, there is plenty there to look at. I think there's, 350? I won't take you through them all. But yeah, this guy's doing a bit of boating by the looks of it down his main street. And yeah, I will play the video that goes with this because it's a different video from the one I played earlier.
We have have a pretty serious flooding situation that could be developing over the next couple of days. I'm going to get into the forecast in just a minute for that. But there's been so much rain that's fallen over the last couple of days in parts of especially northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. You know, people try to drive through flooded roads, and it's always a bad idea. You know, very often you'll try to drive through a flooded road and it ends up like this, probably just not good for your car or whatever. But, you know, it really doesn't take too much more than that to do this, all right? And this is much easier to deal with than things like tornadoes, where you have to know your plan, you have to know exactly which room to be in and all that stuff. All you need to know with flooding is don't drive through flooded roadways, and this is going to be a really serious thing to know over the next couple of days. So here's the problem, here's the story. This is where all the rain has fallen over the last couple of days. This is not a forecast, okay? So you can see there's some areas that have had, 4 to 7 inches of rain, and that's a lot. The ground is really, really soaked, and we've got this setup where there's just this slow-moving storm system. It's just going to be round after round of rain. Guess where? In these exact same spots that have been getting all the rain over the last week. So I think there's a good chance that some spots are going to end up with pretty serious flooding situations. Please be aware and remember, just don't drive through the flooded roadways. I know it's tempting. Don't do it.
So there you go. Back to the Australian Bureau of Meteorology page. Can't help but go back to this. That beautiful perfect letter J that formed on my birthday, which I think is got to be pointing to the fact that Jayton's prophecy, Jayton being a blend of Jacob and Nathan, has to do with America. And you often get letter J's, but because the low pressure systems here spin clockwise, so it tends to give you this curved effect, but you don't often get a capital letter J like that. It's not the best image of it either. It really does look like a capital J. It's cool. So yeah, we had the cyclone forming on my birthday off Australia. It's not going to affect anyone itself, but I do think it was a sign from Jacob and Jacob's boyfriend. And it's a sign for a bigger weather event, certainly something that's going to affect people a lot more than that cyclone is. Not in Australia, in America. And I've been saying America all along. I never thought this prediction was for Australia. Tornadoes, breeze, wind. Nathan died in a wind-related natural disaster. Bushfires are pushed by big winds. And Black Saturday, the wind was roaring. It was over 100 kilometers an hour. And in the firestorm that Nathan died in, it could have been, God knows, how strong those winds were. But tornadoes are quite similar. Like he was just saying, like knowing your plan, knowing what to do. It's like tornadoes are actually quite similar to bushfires. They are extremely violent, extremely dangerous. At least with a bushfire, you know it's coming. With a tornado, you may have no warning whatsoever. It can just be upon you like that. So, yeah, Nathan was very unlucky. Usually if you shelter in a house, you'll be okay. And Jacob was very unlucky. Usually if you ride your push bike down to the local shops out in a nice rural area, and it was the first time he had ever done that, and he was with his brother and his best friend. What are the chances of getting abducted and murdered? It's just like one of the, it's not even one in, it wouldn't even be a 1 in 10 million chance. And it's a bit the same with Nathan. How many people have died in a bushfire while sheltering in a house? It's just so unlucky. And Nathan was actually one of 9 people who died at 9 Pine Ridge Road, I think it was, in Kinglake West. And yeah, both these boys died in a terrible way. Had they lived, I definitely believe they would have had to, because I really do believe they are gay, and that is same-sex attracted. I think they would have had to have battled, like I have, because homophobia is a really it's something that you can't always pick. People can discriminate in all kinds of ways, and they can really hurt you while even pretending to be very close to you, and that's probably the worst. But the ways that people can discriminate if they're homophobic is it's so vast, and it's so much more than just being opposed to same-sex marriage or wanting to get rid of the Safe Schools program. It's a really difficult thing to deal with, and it's really difficult to to live a normal life if you're gay, because you don't get treated like you're normal. People treat you like you're abnormal. Actually, gay people are quite normal, and kinky people are quite normal. It's quite normal to to be sexually adventurous, and Jacob and Nathan were both quite mischievous in a way. From what I've read, both of them were described by their families as pranksters. So you could almost look at them as being two boy pranksters in love. I do believe they're together somewhere. I don't really believe in reincarnation. I think when you die, you sort of move on. I don't think you have to start again. And I think wherever they are, they're together. And I think they're actually probably in a much happier place than where I am. This world is not terribly nice to anyone. And I think that's what this is what people forget when they decide, oh, I'm gonna, I don't go much on gays. Of course, they use much worse words than gays. What they forget is that gay people have all the crap thrown at them that everyone has. All the day-to-day problems that everyone has to try and work through. It all hits gay people too. But on top of that, you have to deal with this endless prejudice. So when I say I'm not religious, there is a very, very powerful reason for that. And despite being spiritual, despite being raised a Catholic, I have become extremely anti-religion. And the reason is, I look around and I see a lot of people who call themselves Christians who are horrible, absolutely horrible in their attitude towards people of other religions. They have a disgusting attitude towards refugees and asylum seekers. There are quite a few religious people who are homophobic. They don't think gay people have they don't think gay people should be allowed to marry. They don't think same-sex marriage should be legalized. And that's because they don't see gay people as being equal human beings. Well, I do. And I feel no shame whatsoever in putting my beliefs out into the world, including my belief that Jacob Wetterling and Nathan Breeze were both gay boys, are both gay boys, are in a relationship, that Jacob is Nathan's boyfriend, that Nathan is Jacob's boyfriend, that they are adventurous, they are what you might call kinky, in a good way, in a good, nice way. They are both boys who absolutely respect each other's free will. They are naturally consensual. They are not the types of people, they are not the types of boys who coerce or manipulate people. They do not deny human rights to others. And that is what I have in common with these boys. And I don't see that in mainstream religion. I don't see that in Christianity. I don't see that in Islam. I don't see it in Hinduism. I don't see it in Judaism. And I think if you look at the history of religion, it is pretty damn dark and awful. It's actually a trail of the same kind of crap that happened to these boys when they were on Earth. And while bushfires are natural, there's no doubt that Black Saturday was, it was influenced by global warming. 46 degrees is not a temperature you often see in Melbourne, but that kind of thing is becoming more common, more frequent. The man who murdered Jake, he wasn't an openly sexual person. He wasn't openly gay or openly kinky or openly anything. He was secretive, deceptive, two-faced, closeted. He was part of the culture of secrecy that goes hand in hand with religion, which I totally reject. And I want to make that really clear, because I don't want anyone to say that a Christian guy came up with a prophecy, because I'm not a Christian. I don't want to be a Christian. I don't want to be known as a Christian. I am who I am, and I am same-sex attracted. I am a gay guy. I believe 100% that Jacob Wetterling and Nathan Breeze were both gay, are both same-sex attracted, are in love, are boyfriends, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is not abnormal. It is not weird. It does not make them freaks. It does not make them lesser. And so this prophecy is about a lot more than just weather. But it is kind of cool that these boys have the surnames Wetterling and Breeze, because they are both reflections of the weather. And they are both reflected in the weather on Earth.